Another moment that is red hot.
Yes.
And it's also the player we're about to talk about, Bryce Harper and the Philadelphia Phillies. First off, if you guys haven't seen this photo, after Bryce Harper goes deep, he had 2 home runs last night that led the Phillies to a win over the Braves. Now the Braves are 1 game away from elimination. But he's staring down Arcia. And actually, it's funny. I got to face Arcia in 2021 when the AAA team for the Braves, by the way, was ridiculously talented too. It was stupid how good Arcia was on that team. And Harper's staring him down, not because it's a division rival, not because it's the postseason, but because of a comment that was made that became more public than people might have not realized. So I'll put it this way for people that haven't heard, who's new to this, and right, Stanley Gwinnett is the AAA team. Shout out, I think they were it's bad of me. They were the Stripers, I believe. It was the Fish. I think they beat the crap out of us. But anyway, a lot of teams did in 2021 for the Tides. Love the Tides. Rough year for the Tides. But anyway, there was comments
did
that
Arcia
came out.
Did Arcia hit you with an attaboy Ripken at the end of the game? Or
well, if he did, then I might have done a better job. So you just brought up, it's a great entry into this. So Arcia was caught talking about in the clubhouse that was saying attaboy Harper after the double play that ended the game. Harper was doubled off in game 2. And that, guys, Brad, this just has started a whirlwind, effect polarizing around the sports world, especially in the baseball world.
Yeah, and there's a lot of division amongst players and fans about this whole situation. And the reason is because, Arcia wasn't on the record saying this, right? He was in the locker room, said something out loud. No, none of the reporters were specifically talking to him or interviewing him when he said it. And so now there's certain players that have taken issue with this, and certain players that think it's fantastic. So let's just start with those who are against. And actually, I want to start with Arcia's comments in the first place. So here's what Arcia had to say after the game, after the Bryce Harper stare down.
When you win the clubhouse, I just under the impression that you could say whatever you wanted. So, I guess it's just something that was reported, and just that.
When you said what you said, did you intend for it to get back to Harper when you said that?
Cuando dijiste lo que dijiste, que si tuviste la intención que Harper lo escuche.
No está supuesto escucharlo, por eso lo estamos celebrando en el clubhouse.
He wasn't supposed to hear. That's why we were celebrating. That was why we were talking in the clubhouse.
All right, so that was direct from Arcia, and then Kevin Gausman goes out on Twitter and talks about it as well. He says it's ridiculous it says it's ridiculous that us players have to watch out for what we say in our clubhouse, and then he follows it up with another tweet that says, some of y'all, man, I'm just saying that that you should not be allowed to quote a player that you say you heard something like this in a clubhouse when you, the reporter, are not talking to that player. And then finally, we also have Chris Bassett that came out and said pitchers love it when position players on your own team piss off the superstar hitters on the other team. And so there's still just very clear division. And before we give any of our opinions and takes on this, I just wanted to give you one more shot or one more comment from Joey Votto on the Dan Patrick Show. Take a listen.
Harper situation. So he gets doubled up the night before and then all of a sudden hits a couple of home runs and then stares down one of the players who kind of made fun of him a little bit in the locker room after the game.
No, not kind of. And this is what I think baseball needs more of. I think we need these exchanges. First of all, Bryce is one of the more iconic players in our sport, obviously one of the better players in our sport, best players in our sport, 2-time most valuable player. Orlando Arcia, if I'm not mistaken, started the All-Star game this year, so he's a successful player in his own right. But I think these exchanges between teams, between stars, between players, I think will really, and tell that story. And that way we get to have those moments. And, the photo of Harper looking back at Arcia, I mean, how good is that for a baseball fan? The big moments, you could sense the anger. I think, and I'm not going to mind read here, but I think the average baseball fan wants to hear the anger, the emotion, the hatred, the spite. I guarantee when Arcia and Harper step away from the field and the series is done, they dap each other up, handshake each other. And come on, it's just competition. But in competition, give us that context. Attaboy, Harper, way to go. He's kind of making fun of him, way to run the bases. He hears it. And then all of a sudden he's like, all right, you want to talk about me? Let me show you what I can do with this bat. Let me, put a dagger in this game, sort of thing. So Phillies are up 2-1, I think, just out of spite. That was a spite win almost.
What's that?
So it'll be a great series. They'll play 5. I bet you they play 5.
And we'll find out if they play 5 tonight. But man, guys, give your initial thoughts. I have plenty of them, but I want to hear from you. Ryan, go ahead. You're muted.
Yeah, you're muted.
Oh, sorry. And it knew it picked it up. I was getting a drink, didn't want to make too much noise in case. But hey, I think it's fascinating because also I've been told that a boy on the field after, messing up a play, screwing up so many times I can't even tell you. And sometimes I'll turn around and I'll remember, like, okay, I got that. And if I smoke a ball next time or I do it, I'll go, well, I'll give myself a pound in the batter. I'll make a sly comment. That's a part of the game. And I understand what Votto's saying, that I think fans so much nowadays that guys are friends in the other teams. As a fan growing up, you're like, no, I want you to hate that guy. I want you to despise him on and off the field. But I also think it just adds to the element of the postseason in this case. So it's exciting. That photo is iconic because of the context of what just happened, right? So there it is. But now the bigger the debate with when Gausman and Bassett were talking about of what can be said in a locker room or not. I've been on both sides, and there has been comments of people coming out to say this is why we don't trust media right here, is because they feel like it's not a safe space. And in the locker room, it is supposed to be a sanctuary. Now, having said that, in the postseason, the reality, people are around. A mic's around everywhere. Not everyone's going to hold this up to this value of saying, well, if I'm not interviewing you or this is a safe space, then I'm just going to let this go. It's going to be screw it. They think it's a story. Those people are going to run with it. That's the world we live in, whether you like it or not. So it's not the same ballpark you grew up with 20 years ago either, where things were even more limited. And there was some weird, well, I'll save that story time for later. But that's my initial thought. As just a player, that's your spot, but also realizing that your teammates are going to have your back, the staff, your organization, but anyone else that comes in there, you can't give them the benefit that they're going to look out for you.
Yeah. I think my first thought is that picture needs to go next to the Mona Lisa. I think especially if the Phillies win the World Series, that is going to go down as one of the most iconic pictures in Philadelphia sports history. Just incredible. And then the next thing is, if you were to rank in the MLB players you do not want to mess with or tick off, it's Bryce Harper and then a massive gap, and then there's number 2. And it just seems like somehow he always finds a way to get these little tidbits from the other team. Like you said, how many times has someone said attaboy? And it's not like he was going out and saying all this crazy stuff. It was 3 words, and that was enough to Harper was like, I'm taking this personally. So I don't necessarily think the comments were like awful. It was just the person that, it was about is known for taking those comments and then putting a ball or 2 over the fence. So that's what we saw.
Yeah. You know who else is? Michael Jordan. We know the Last Dance. We've all seen it, right? That meme that one moment in that series where he's like, and I took that personally. Yep. Like that was fucking Bryce Harper in that moment. Like he was just like, all right, I fucking got this. I'm just going to hit two bombs and just like stare you down because, you just had to talk shit about me because I made a mistake. Like that is just like, and I'm 100% with Joey Votto is just like, this is what's great about, the game. Like, just make it a rivalry, create that drama. I mean, and it's just, it's just awesome. And to on the other side of things of like, this is why we don't trust media. I would appreciate that if Orlando Arcia was talking about, maybe something personal that was going on with his family and it somehow got leaked out, talking about a safe space or whatever. But Arcia was just talking shit about Bryce Harper. It was a harmless comment that was made. I don't think that there's anything that players need to be worried about as far as trusting the media based off of that example alone. I'm sure there's other ones, but like, to me, it was a very small moment that actually made the game better and made the series even better. I have to imagine that this game tonight is going to be one of the most watched games in baseball this season.
Oh, no doubt. And I mean, so the other part, it's like bulletin board material. That's really what it is. And we hear it all the time where some guys are going to come out there and just say it out loud, right? Some things, to your point, Brad, it's a very good point. This wasn't something that was so personal that you wouldn't necessarily say to his face, right? That's a banter that goes back, and it does spice it up. It makes things exciting out there. And for Bryce Harper, though, he's a guy that loves that moment. Now he has the most home runs in the NLDS history, by the way. Like, and also too, I think I saw a couple gifts then and realized it. By the way, there was 2 people on that roof, apparently, on the stadium and that was actually hilarious to see. But Bryce is a guy that these moments bring out the best in him. And so I'm with you, Brad. Who the hell cares? Yeah. Who cares on that front? But I will say this though, it strikes a chord with guys. It really does. And this talking about with media, some guys, if they weren't going to talk before, they're going to be more pissed off with guys now. And I tell people now, being on the other side, I go like, hey, if you don't want me to say anything, my personality is like, I don't give a shit. If you don't want me to say anything, I won't. That's how I am. The relationship matters more. But we do understand we're in a day and age where get a click, put something out there. You got to understand that not everyone is going to share that same value that you have.
Yeah, I think another thing that needs to be involved in the conversation about, is this the right way for media to act and stuff, is this wasn't reported by like an ESPN or some big, Fox Sports or a local network. It was reported by Cespedes Family Barbecue, the podcast that's like, so like this was a bunch of guys that just started a podcast, somehow got media credentials and were there and they overheard it and they put it out. So it's not like ESPN heard this and ran with the story. Like, these are guys that will not be in the clubhouse 99% of the time after a game. And it's just unfortunate that Arcia was making those comments when guys who are looking for something like that are in the clubhouse. I mean, I'm sure they heard that and they knew immediately. They were like, oh, this is going to be big. And then they put it out there and now we see this. So I think that's another thing, is it's not like this was traditional media and ESPN writer or something. Like, these were a bunch of guys that hang out and have a podcast together that got media credentials and were in the locker room for this.
Yeah. And what are we doing wrong, by the way?
Yeah.
We need to get into we need to get some of those credentials too.
Yeah.
Those guys get them. We got to be able to. Right.
Yeah. I confession, I think I've had credentials to go down almost every game through the season that I do pregame with Pickles. And I just figured that out for the final postseason game.
Of course.
Like, Ryan, you can go talk to your teammates. I'm like, well, I'm not going to start it now. This is not going to be the time to start. I wish I had thought about that earlier, but yeah, maybe that'll be down the road for us, but sometimes they'll let anybody in there and things can get wild. So, hey, but you're right, Brad. The focus too, this was must-watch TV for this series before all this shit came out, and now it's at the forefront. Yeah. If you are not interested in the Braves Phillies, I don't know what to tell you.